Hi everyone. Can you hear me okay in the back? Wonderful. Hi, thank you so much to those who braved the, I guess now more temperate weather, and to everyone who's joining us online. Welcome to our event celebrating Kate Folk's paperback release of Out There. Let's give it up for Kate. You're all out here braving the rain in the name of literature. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't be more proud. This is our first event of 2023, and I'm very excited. New year, new us. Better us. Best us. We're doing great. Welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. I'm really excited to be celebrating Kate's book. We're going to be hearing not only from Kate, but also from 3 other phenomenal writers this evening. Let's give it up also for Tomas, Moniz, Shein, and Stanford. So, a little bit of business, and then we'll get into the fun part. First, please do check out our full event calendar on our website at greenapplebooks.com. We have a great year ahead of us. Please do keep your masks on between sips of beverage. First, please do have beverages. Second, please keep your masks on between sips of beverage. I know it's like maybe a little bit of a strange transitionary period, but we're trying to be celebratory and safer. We want to be able to imbibe and be here together, but we also want to keep each other safer. So thank you for being cool about it. We also want to give our authors the grace to take their masks off while they're on the microphone so we can hear them as best as possible. So thank you, we appreciate it. We have books from each of our authors available for purchase at the front register. You can find them at the front, and then at the end of the evening, we're going to have a signing line here at the back. So you can grab them at the front, bring them to the back, and if you need to know where to go, I will gladly tell you. You can just ask me. We are going to be hearing from each of our authors, and then hopefully we'll have time for a Q&A at the end with Kate, and then we'll have a signing line to follow. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first reader. Our first reader, Tomas Moniz, whose debut novel, Big Familia, was a finalist for the 2020 PEN Hemingway and the Lambda and the Forward Indie Awards, and is also a great book. He edited the popular Rad Dad and Rad Families anthologies. He's a 2020 artist affiliate for the Headland Center for the Arts and 2020 UCross resident. He teaches creative writing at Berkeley City College. He has stuff on the internet, but he also loves pen pals. And he promises to write back if you send him a letter. He's the best pen pal in the world. Let's give it up for Tomas Moniz.
Thank you. All right, let me get set here. Tim, your beard under your mask, it's still impressive. I love it. It just goes like curls up nicely. And mine's all... Anyways, I'm going to stop. I'm just going to read an excerpt from my new manuscript. It's about intimacy and friendship and surviving, but this one excerpt is really just kind of about hooking up. So here we go. It's called Masks On, Pants Off, or Stand on 12, Hit on 16. The thing is, how come I want to do all these social activities mid-pandemic that before I was like, nah, I'd rather just chill at my apartment. I mean, getting food and beer on a Wednesday night definitely was fun, but now it takes on the aura of spiritual communion. So these last few months in quarantine have been a reckoning of sorts. I just couldn't pretend I wasn't desperately lonely. So I did 2 things. 1, play FaceTime blackjack with my brother in LA, which led to a number of hangovers and a stiff debt owed. But I did cherish those Tuesdays and Thursday interactions, even longed for that Zoom ping notifying me he entered my waiting room. 2, create a profile on every dating site, which resulted in a number of shockingly immediate, humorous, but explicitly platonic email exchanges. Each person had their own rhythm and expectations, so it felt like I had to balance all these relationship demands. I even made a Google spreadsheet to keep track of each person. All that responsibility satisfied until Austin. On their 5th text message, they said, listen, it seems like we may be craving the same thing. We've both been tested. Let's meet up. I was a bit apprehensive, but of course, I agreed. The night before our date, I dreamed of bodies and smell. I dreamed of leaning into their neck and sniffing. I imagined raising their arms and breathing in their scent. I imagined unzipping their pants and just inhaling them into me. I also dreamed of blackjack, of cards sliding across a verdant green felt table, and me knocking twice, demanding hit me with a smile. We purchased beers to go early Tuesday afternoon and walked the empty streets of downtown Berkeley until Austin finally said, "So listen, I'm game if you are, but there are rules." This was my moment, I thought. I stared at them, mask bedazzled with sparkles, a sleeveless black concert t-shirt, shoulders bare, armpit hair just visible at the creases of shoulder and torso, a denim skirt, black yoga pants. I stepped to them, pulling my mask down, my nose ready to breathe them in. They stepped back. Rule number 1, no touching. Let's drive to the Kittredge parking garage. So as I pulled up to their pale blue Subaru, I revved my Accord, a satisfying purr, and I noticed a kid's seat in the back. The self-automated garage had a good number of cars on level 1 and 2, but level 3 had just a smattering, enough for us to not look too suspicious. Austin raced ahead to a corner parking spot and then backed into it, waving for me to do the same, shouting out the window to leave 6 feet distance between. We killed our engines, got out, and stood apart. Austin looked me up and down, breathed in, and then pressed their legs together and slid down the yoga pants. The first and only time they touched me when they reached out to find balance as each foot pulled free. They said, get in your back seat and keep the window down, but crack it so you can hear me." They pulled up their skirt and slipped underwear down, nothing fancy, a purple cotton thing, but I stared at it like it was lacy and all for me. They balled them up, tossed them into the back seat, and I watched it land perfectly into the child car seat. They growled, "Go," and I went. I got in my back seat and turned to face them. I cracked the window and they slipped off the elastic around one ear, and it was the sexiest thing I had seen. Mask dangling, their mouth, full lips, teeth all white and perfectly square. They said, "Lean back and spread your legs for me. I want to see everything." I smiled and kind of shrugged like, "Okay." "Do it," they demanded, like they weren't even playing. And I laid back, and then I realized that my dome light was on, and I worried a second about my battery, but I remembered that I had jumper cables with me, so I slid off my pants. I placed my feet at the edges of the window. I spread myself open. I felt vulnerable and on display, like being inspected for approval. My body felt new. The softness, the soft fur of my ass cheeks, the way they curved into the center of me, the thrum of my cock filling out, the way my balls nestled and fit so perfectly. I heard a loud huffing and realized that they were getting off. I sat up to watch. They leaned against their car. I saw their pubic hair untrimmed and full, the soft way they stroked themselves. They finished and pushed down their skirt and slipped on their mask. I said, "Wait, give me your hand." They stepped to the window, and 3 fingers slid into my car. I moved my face right in front of them and kissed the tip of each one. I closed my eyes in appreciation. Then I heard the car start and the squeal of rubber on painted cement as they drove off. That night, I played blackjack with my brother, and I won hand after hand, hitting confidently on 16 and never busting when I hit on 12. I found my way to 20 or 21 almost every hand. My brother said, "Damn, what happened to you?" I said, "I guess I'm feeling lucky and not so alone." Thank you.
Give one more hand to Tomas, Moniz. Thank you so much. What a way to start it. Our second reader I'm glad to introduce is Shein, whose most recent full-length poetry collection is Storage Unit for the Spirit House from Amadan, which was nominated for the Northern California Book Award in Poetry, longlisted for the PEN America Open Book Award, and shortlisted for the California Independent Booksellers Alliance's Golden Poppy Award for Poetry. Wynn's previous books include the full-length poetry collection Invisible Gifts and chapbooks Ruins of a Glittering Palace Alice, and Score and Bone. She is the inaugural poet laureate of El Cerrito, all right, and teaches writing in the MFA program at the University of San Francisco. Wynn often collaborates with visual artists, musicians, and other writers, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome her here tonight. Please welcome Ma Shein Wynn.
Thank you, Car. All right. It is so lovely to be here, and can we just give a big hand to Kate for other amazing book, and to Car and everyone at Green Apple, and it's just great to see faces. I am going to read. I've been working on a series of poems that I call logs, and I thought it would be fitting to read one of my weather logs. Weather log. I lean back in the dentist chair, blood pooling in my cheek, a drilling vibration in the head. We order pickup. Try not to ruminate the future. Atmospheric river pummels California. At home, my hair, black and white, across the floor. Hear jackhammers from the apartment above. I am 7. It is midnight. I pad down the long hall. Reach out before me. Light zips off mirrored squares. Thank you. And this is one of my thought logs, so I've been working on thought logs all throughout the pandemic. And this is thought log 16. I experience grief in space. Phantom smells. Weeping elms. Archive of ginkgo leaves in El Cerrito. An untimely breath. Joy tussles. Forest cats. Polka facades. We remain speechless participants. I lift my furred paws toward my husband's face. Transparent prisons, fact-checked entities. From inside, I could hear the tree cutters, bone tongue, meadow slots, sparse joggles. My islands are cluttered with rainbows. Pop-up armies, drizzle stores. The emojis are aging before our eyes. On New Year's Day, we burned sage in a fire pit and twirled 3 times. So I'd like to share a couple poems from Storage Unit for the Spirit House. Storage Unit 202. The rental faces another house. When she arrives, there are wild turkeys in the street. It begins to rain. The storage unit in El Cerrito holds pinned moths in cases, brass castanets, tin pants, a box of cork buttons. She swims laps in the thunderstorm. Storage unit 202. 1. Secondhand gloves. 2. A king drinking pear juice trapped in a glass jar. 3. Wet hair and wet fur. 4. Velvet spurs. 5. Directions to the other world. Thank you. It was funny when I was preparing today. I was like, oh, I can read all my weird stuff. Yay! Okay, so I'd like to end with a log I wrote as I was struggling to create a syllabus for all the teachers out there and students for an upcoming class. And it's called Syllabus Log. Module 1. Metaphor is essentially a mystery of the human condition. Imagine the compositional cloudburst. No one has seen my lower half. Module 2. Urgent offerings are hidden in banalities. Subvert your attention. We construct memories in 25-minute sessions. Module 3. Implicate the reader to upend their views. Astonish with sonic delight. Takes 32 credits to begin climbing the seniority ladder. Module 4. Visual rhetoric in relation to image can skim water. Include low-stakes assignments. My slideshow of falling architecture. Module 5. Respond to nonce language with nonce enthusiasm. Instigate labor-based grading. Recurring dream of disappeared lesson plans. Goes on. Module 6. An examination of parlor flames. Analyze the gestures of flat characters. I revise my POV while brushing my teeth. Module 7. How to archive lost scenarios. Investigate the subjective experience of time travel. Our field trip to the pirate barbecue. Module 8. Explorations of the vagus nerve. Analyze relationships among air-breathing arthropods. I grapple with squishy boundaries. Module 9. Developing close underwater reading skills. Inhabit painterly realms of the netherworld. Our requirements lament. Module 10. Ruminations on post-capitalist mindsets that don't love us. Engage with bamboo similes. I loosen grip on desired income. Module 11. Revision of initial response to pineapple jam. Superficiality characterize these A+ essays. Safe in our plastics, we develop enticing title headings. Module 12. How do we navigate intention and receptivity? The body presents the complication that sets the plot in motion. Review feedback on third nightmare. Module 13. Unmasking definitions of reimagined disciplines. Note that 4 absences will result in ailing chickens. Differing types of engagement with leg veins. Module 14. Some evidence of smelling strategies. Students commit to deft aesthetics. I long for counter-arguments. Module 15. Division of product and process must be blurred. Post-its of confessions on whiteboard. Bring to class an object that fuses abstraction and glow. Thank you for listening.
Let's have one more hand for Ma Chang-Lin. We like the weird stuff, Ma. Keep it coming.
I know.
You found your people. I'm excited to introduce our next reader, who is visiting us all the way from Reno, Nevada. Claire Stanford is the author of the novel Happy for You, which was named a New York Times Book Review's Editor's Choice. Her work has appeared in Black Warrior Review, The Rumpus, Tin House, Flash Fridays, Lit Hub, and Electric Lit, among other publications. Born and raised in Berkeley, she currently lives in Reno, where she is an assistant professor of creative writing at the University of Nevada at Reno. Please give a warm welcome to Claire Stanford.
Hi, it's so exciting to be here. I'm so excited to celebrate Kate's incredible collection and also to read with Tomas and Ma and to be at this wonderful bookstore. So I'm going to be reading a little section of my debut novel, Happy for You. It's from about halfway through the book, so I just need to say a few things to set it up. The narrator is a woman named Evelyn Kaminsky Kumamoto. She's half Japanese and half Jewish, which is like me, but the novel is not autobiographical. And she's in her early 30s. She's left a PhD program in philosophy to work for the third most popular internet company in the world, which is developing an app to measure user happiness. And the app is named Joyful with 2 L's. And the only other thing you need to know is that she's in a long-term relationship and she's pregnant and she's not sure about whether she wants to get married or not. And she's about to do the first test, the first beta test of Joyful. Back at my desk, I watched as the first page of the happiness intake loaded on my phone. All around me, the other members of the team were also getting ready to be measured. Who would be the happiest among us? Who would be the least happy? I hoped it wasn't me. I was about to have a baby. It couldn't be me. Or if it was, I supposed I would have a ready-made excuse. The hormones, the fatigue. I selected my age bracket, my sex. I said whether I smoked, whether I drank, whether I used illegal drugs, whether I used legal drugs. I input how often I exercise, what type of exercise, my income bracket, my level of education, my parents' level of education, whether or not I had siblings, their level of education. It asked me for my relationship status, but the options were only single or married. I held my finger over married, but it did not seem right. I clicked single. The app was quickly learning most everything there was to know about me, on paper at least. I wondered if it would be wrong to lie. I was tempted. I wanted to keep some things to myself, but probably the third most popular internet company would find out. Probably the third most popular internet company already knew, even though I still used the first most popular internet company most of the time. I scrolled down the page to the next question. Race, and this is a drop-down menu. White, parentheses Caucasian, African American, Latino/Latina, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander, other. I hovered my finger over Asian. I hovered my finger over white, parentheses Caucasian. I clicked other and stared at it. I clicked Asian, which made the check next to other disappear. I clicked other again, which made the check next to Asian disappear. I pressed the forward arrow and moved on to the next page. As the next question loaded, I wondered if I should go back and change my answer to Asian. When was the last time you marveled at the world? I clicked the bracket for within the last week, which seemed not as happy as today, but considerably happier than never. I moved on to the next question. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? I feel like I am flourishing. Strongly agree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. Was I flourishing? I clicked somewhat agree, then switched it to somewhat disagree. They felt to me exactly the same. I wondered if Dr. Luce would be reviewing our results. I wondered if it was better to start with a higher baseline or a lower one to show more improvement or less need to improve. I changed it back to somewhat agree. I answered more questions about whether I felt purposeful in my life, about whether people said I had a good sense of humor, about how many people I interacted with on a given day, how many people I felt I could trust, about whether I saw projects through to the very end no matter what obstacles got in my way, whether I saw life as rewarding, whether I thought people were fundamentally good or fundamentally evil, whether I thought most people cheated on their taxes, whether I thought the world was a good place, whether I was optimistic about the future, whether I felt I could rely on other people, whether I mostly kept my problems to myself, whether I had a cheerful effect on others, whether I thought I was likable or unlikable. A few of the questions that Sabine, Josh, and I had developed had made it into the questionnaire, but most of the questions were new to me. I tried to click the buttons instinctively, which was what the instructions had said to do. Was I likable? I clicked somewhat agree. I paused. I changed it to somewhat disagree. On the next screen, instead of a question, there was an image of an eye and instructions to hold my device up to my face. I lifted my phone and watched as my face appeared on the screen, and then as the image zoomed in on my right eye. A small wheel at the bottom of the screen rotated. Scanning, 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 scanning complete. I lowered my phone and clicked the big blue button at the bottom of the test that said get my score. I watched the wheel turn again as the app plugged my answers into its algorithm. The algorithm that I had, in a way, helped design. The next screen loaded. 7.1 out of 10, it said. Neither happy nor unhappy. The average, it said, was 7.2. I was 0.1 happiness units away from average. That did not seem like the right score for a pregnant woman. Wasn't bringing new life into the world supposed to be the pinnacle of joy? Was this, I wondered, something to be concerned about? "This is not something to be concerned about," the next screen said. It said that happiness was a process, that I should come back tomorrow for a new activity to help build my emotional fitness. I looked up from my screen. Most of the other strategists were still bent over their phones. I wished there were a way for me to know what they were answering. I wanted to know their scores. This is not a competition, I told myself. I thought back to the philosophy roundtable. Montaigne would say it was fine to be a 7.1, that it didn't matter what anyone else was scoring, that the only thing that mattered was my individual experience of my individual happiness. It's okay to be a 7.1, I told myself. I looked at the screen at my 7.1. I would have to redouble my efforts. Thank you.
And one more hand for Claire Stanford. I'm delighted to introduce the person of the hour, the reason that we are all here this evening, Kate Folk. Kate has written for publications including The New Yorker, The New York Times Magazine, Granta, McSweeney's Quarterly, and Ziziva. She's received support from the Headland Center for the Arts, McDowell, and the Vermont Studio Center, as well as the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. Recently, she was a Wallace Stegner Fellow in Fiction at Stanford University. She lives in San Francisco. Out There is her first book, and we are celebrating its birthday today. So please welcome Kate Folk.
Thank you so much, Car, and thank you, Green Apple, for hosting us tonight. This has been a dream of mine to have an event at Green Apple. I just love the store, and thank you so much, Tomas, Ma, and Claire, for coming out and reading with me tonight. I just thought that'd be more fun rather than like the whole in conversation, which I did a lot of, which is fun too. So yeah, I'm really excited to celebrate the paperback. I myself prefer paperbacks generally, so I was really excited to have the soft version of my book, and it's also cool because maybe some people here have already read the book. I don't know, it's already been in the world for a while, so I feel like that makes a reading a little bit different. And I was thinking about what to read tonight, and I wanted to read something that I hadn't read before from the book, and I thought that a good way to celebrate tonight, since the paperback is kind of like the end of the book's launch in a way, I thought I would read the very end of the book, actually. So I'm going to read the last part of the last story in the book, which is called Big Sur. And if you haven't read the book, basically the title story out there is about these fake men called blots who are unleashed in San Francisco to prey on women using dating apps, and then wine and dine them and take them to Big Sur eventually, and then steal all their data and vaporize in the middle of the night when the woman doesn't have cell phone service. So that's the first story in the book, and then the final story in the book returns to that universe of the blots, and it's kind of like a way of bookending the collection. And so in Big Sur, within that universe, it actually takes place prior to the first story, and it's about a woman who inadvertently falls in love with a blot and then discovers who he is or what he is. And so this is the very last part of the story where she's made the conscious choice to go to Big Sur with him, even though she knows the consequences, that he's going to vaporize and steal her identity and all of that. So she decides to do it for love, basically. Okay. They began the drive on a Friday morning. Meg had called in sick to the eye bank and rented a car using the credit card she normally reserved for emergencies. Roger met her at the corner of 19th and Lincoln. He climbed into the passenger seat, leaned over, and kissed her cheek. "Oh, Meg, you have made me so happy," Roger said. "This is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me." "How does it work?" she asked. "Will it hurt to be vaporized?" "I do not know," Roger said. "I imagine it will be a great relief. I cannot wait for the burden of my memories to be removed." As they drove south, they listened to the 3 David Bowie albums Meg had loved most in high school. Roger had never heard this music, and he kept turning up the volume until the car's chassis rattled with sound. "Meg, this song is about us," he exclaimed when he heard the chorus of kooks. "A couple of kooks hung up on romancing." She laughed. "Turn it down," she said. "You'll make me crash." They stopped at a fruit stand near Gilroy. The temperature had risen 10 degrees as they journeyed south, and Meg took off her sweatshirt and threw it in the back seat. They sat in the parked car with the windows rolled down, eating strawberries and candied almonds. "Which memories do you want to forget?" Meg asked. "It seems pointless to reflect on these events, now that I know they did not happen," Roger said. "They are not real." "They're real to you, though," Meg said. She handed him the carton of strawberries, and he examined them before putting one in his mouth, stem and all. "Yes," Roger said, chewing the strawberry. "I do not understand why they gave me such terrible memories when they could have given me pleasant ones." He thought again of the murdered owl, how its babies had cried out from their nest. "Probably so you can better relate to people," Meg said. "People like me." "Do you have painful memories, Meg?" "Of course," she said. "Everyone does." "Would you like to recount some of them to me?" "What's there to recount?" she said. "One day the people you love are alive. The next day they're gone forever." "Murakami wrote that death is not the opposite of life, but an innate part of it," Roger said. Meg nodded. "That's very true." "I know the feeling of wanting a home to return to," Roger said. "Yes," Meg said. "I imagine you do." She pushed the button that brought the car back to life. "Meg, would you like me to drive the rest of the way?" She thought of the road ahead, which she remembered grew more winding and precipitous as they entered Big Sur. "Do you have a license?" "No, and I have never operated a vehicle," Roger said. "But I possess an intrinsic knowledge of these roads. This is the path I was always meant to take." She imagined their rental car careening over the cliffs and bursting into flame. But as she regarded Roger's smiling face, she felt certain he would not lead them to such an end. It occurred to her that she trusted him more than anyone. The way he would hurt her was already known, coded into his design at the cellular level. Everything else was left to fate, the random tragedy that could befall them, regardless of who was driving. Meg switched places with Roger, and he eased the car back onto the road. She gazed out the passenger window at the bright expanse of the Pacific. Her cell phone lost service, Spotify cutting out in the middle of Lowe's final track. She leaned her seat back and drifted to sleep, lulled by Roger's capable handling of the curves. Roger drove them to the cabin, located down several twisting back roads. It was a complicated path, but he was compelled by instinct, as birds understood where to migrate in winter. He thought about this route every night, was able to picture it and the cabin that lay at its end with perfect clarity, though he had never been here before. Soon they were upon it, a 2-story cabin set into a hill that rose from the woods. He parked in the driveway, got out, and located a key beneath the third stone, lining the path to the front door. "Wow, this place is amazing," Meg said. She figured the cabin would cost at least $500 a night on Airbnb. The granite-tiled foyer opened to a main room filled with live-edge furniture. Woven tapestries hung on the walls. In the kitchen, she found a long butcher-block island, at the end of which sat a bowl of rotting fruit. The fridge was filled with food, much of it expired, goat milk yogurt, bottles of beer, restaurant leftovers gathering mold in their compostable clamshells. Upstairs, the bed was made up with a linen duvet. A deck opened off the bedroom, overlooking the ocean. Meg wondered how previous blots had persuaded women to bring their laptops on the trip, even though there would be no Wi-Fi. She was glad she and Roger did not have to engage in such deceit. She had brought her laptop without his asking, understanding what was required of her. She set it on the glazed tree stump that served as a bedside table. Roger found her there, sitting on the edge of the bed. He had been showering and now wore a white bathrobe she imagined other blots had worn before him. "Beautiful Meg," he said, standing over her and brushing the hair from her forehead. "What should we do tonight?" Impulsively, she grabbed his arm, pulling him down onto the mattress beside her. They went to a restaurant set into the cliffs off the main road. They sat on the same side of the table on an outdoor patio, flanked by heat lamps shaped like trees. They ordered oysters, burgers, and fries, a bottle of red wine. With some grooming, Roger had been restored to the handsomeness he'd possessed on the night she met him at the dinner party. Meg no longer felt embarrassed by his odd manner with the servers, his desire to always be touching her. "Will it happen tonight?" Meg said as they picked at the remaining fries. "Either tonight or tomorrow night," Roger said. "I do not know which." If you're still here tomorrow, we should go on a hike, Meg said. I would like that very much, Roger said. He was quieter than usual. He seemed to have settled into himself, and Meg realized that prior to this time, he must have been racked with a painful longing to arrive at Big Sur. Now that he was close to achieving his purpose, they were able to be present with each other. They stopped at a scenic overlook on the drive back to the cabin. Roger helped Meg climb the sand dunes off the parking lot. They slid over them, laughing, before collapsing into the sand. There was a new moon, and the darkness allowed the stars to stand in sharp relief, brighter than they ever could be in the city. Back in the cabin, they had sex again. This sex had a different quality than before, slow and exploratory, each transaction defined by Meg's awareness that it would never be repeated. They both came eventually, then lay with their bodies entwined, the white sheets gritty with sand. I don't want to fall asleep, Meg whispered. You must, Meg, Roger said. Sleep is essential for bodily and mental health. Once I fall asleep, I might never see you again, Meg said. She thought maybe if she stayed awake, she could keep Roger with her longer, at least one more day. There is another Murakami quote that I have been thinking about, Roger said. If you remember me, then I don't care if everyone else forgets. Meg began crying silently, the tears forming a wet patch on the linen beneath her cheek. She didn't think Roger would notice, but he tightened his arms around her. Do not cry, Meg, he said softly. I will always remember this day we've spent together. It has been the best day of my entire life. His words comforted her, as they contained an implicit promise that Roger would continue existing in some form. She understood that this was his purpose, his destiny, that standing in the way of it would do neither of them any good. She fell asleep in his arms and slept better than she had in months. When she woke in the morning, he was gone, the air in the room suffused by a fresh lavender scent. She rolled over to the tree stump and opened her laptop, hoping to find some message from Roger, a love note scrawled in a Word document. But there was nothing. Later, when she was back in cell service, Meg would check her phone and find a photo Roger had sent the night before, at 8:35 p.m., when she had been in the bathroom at the restaurant, of a Cocker Spaniel wearing a straw Panama hat. The message had gone through on Roger's end, meaning that wherever he and his phone had vanished to, there was cell service. She replied with a heart emoji, hoping he would respond, but hours and days passed and he never did. She would keep texting Roger for years, even after she had begun dating the man she would marry and moved to a suburb of Seattle, where they started a family. She wanted to keep him updated, hoping that wherever he was, whatever blot hive mind had been absorbed into, some ember of his consciousness could still see her messages, even if he could never respond. Meg made coffee from some stale ground she found in the kitchen cupboard. She went on a long hike, and finally, as the sun drew low over the sea, began the journey north to reassemble her life. Thank you. So should I stay for, okay, questions? Does anyone have questions?
Hi, I love your book, and I'm curious if in writing it, if the parts that are funny seem funny when you're writing them, or if it's kind of later that you realize, oh yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, so the question is if it seems funny when I'm writing it, or if it's only funny after. I feel like I think it does seem funny when I'm writing it, like if I make myself laugh, and so I kind of know, but it kind of still has to happen accidentally. Like if I try to be funny, then it's really not funny. But I feel like language itself can be funny, just like as I revise, and I don't know, it kind of can surprise me, just like the way words and things come together. Yeah, so hopefully I laugh at it when it happens, but I can't really plan it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
Does the idea of future scares you or makes you hopeful?
So does the idea of the future scare me or make me hopeful?
As a writer.
As a writer, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think it scares me, given the way things are going. But yeah, I don't know. I think that fiction is kind of the most fun way to explore or imagine the future, I think, and I don't know. I've been reading a lot of like Ursula Le Guin lately, and she's like so amazing. I don't even know if she writes about the future really, but just that like really kind of sci-fi imagined societies and planets. I think that could provide maybe like some way of going forward into the future, but I don't know. Probably not. Probably it's just scary. Yes.
Oh, I like that reading, but there's a lot of stories in that collection. One of my favorite is called Moist House, and I just wondered like where did you get the inspiration for that or something like that?
Yeah. So the question is about Moist House, the story. So. Moist House is one of those rare stories that came to me in a dream. Actually, I used to live in this studio apartment in Richmond, and it had this one wall that was kind of like, I think it was concrete or some kind of stone. It was really hard. And then there was like a cold day where I noticed there was like moisture on it, like the wall was wet, and it was like, uh-oh. And then I had a dream where I was like in a house and it had like flaking skin, and I had to put like Cetaphil, moisturizer on it, and like, and so when I woke up, when I was still half asleep, I just like wrote it as a note saying like house needs moisture, and then I wrote a story from it. So
That's great.
that's like one of the only stories that I can say like, oh yeah, that's where it's from. So thanks for that question.
I wondered what your thoughts were on Murakami. I think it was funny to hear the quote, and I know it got a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
I wondered what the significance of it was.
Yeah, the significance of Murakami. Well, he's the favorite author of the Blots, and they're instructed to read Murakami as like a cultural enrichment program so that they can better relate to American women and like potentially make them feel bad for not having read Murakami. Also works and like just summarize the novels. I like Murakami. I actually haven't read that many of his books. I've read like a couple of them over the years, but I don't know. Somehow it just seems. I think it was because I had heard of. I actually like had a friend who like went out with a guy and he like made her feel bad for not having read Murakami. So that was crazy. It seemed like that author he's very popular, but he is like literary and respected and all of that, and he writes these like sad boy kind of characters too, right? And like kind of sci-fi. So I don't know, it all worked. But I feel like in bookstore crowds, people really think it's funny. I think it's funny too. Any other questions? Yeah.
And what are you working on next? Is it all going to be short fiction, or are you doing something like a novel or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm working on a novel now. So, yeah, and it's I don't want to say too much about it. I'd say it's more of like a character study, and it's not really speculative, but the character is very unusual in her obsessions and desires. So, so maybe it has some kind of spiritual overlap with out there, but yeah, I'm fully in novel mode now, even though I love short stories. But at this point, it seems kind of harder to write a short story collection than a novel because it's like so many different worlds to create and then move on to the next one, whereas a novel at least you're kind of like in it. But they're both really hard, so. Yeah.
I had a question about this story. I can't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely like, well, maybe it's my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to choose. Anyway, I believe it's called Sanctuary.
Shelter, yeah.
Shelter, Jesus. I keep doing that. Sorry. It's called Shelter, and it is very gothic, and I found it just totally, I mean, I found it extremely terrifying because of the voluntary nature of the horror in it, and I had a job very similar to the main character's job, I'm not kidding. And so I found it extremely relatable. I was wondering if you could talk more about the backstory of that story and what went into it. If it's based on anything that you know, from your life or from a friend's life.
Yeah, so Shelter is a story about a couple who moved from San Francisco to like rural Iowa and are renting this house, and the woman, the main character, does this job where she's like a copywriter for like a kink.com type website. So she's writing descriptions of these like porn videos basically, and like a work from home situation. And then she and her boyfriend is in this like psychedelic band or whatever, and so he's always like recording in Solon, which is a small town. So I'm from Iowa City, so that was the inspiration for that setting. Like you might notice in the book, like a lot of the stories are set in San Francisco or California, and then there's like a couple that are set in Iowa, so that's like a lingering influence. But yeah, it was really inspired. So anyway, so the main point of the story is that she's working at home all day, and there's this storm shelter in the basement, or she thinks that's what it is. It's this like locked concrete room that suddenly they've been storing the shop back in it, and suddenly they can't open it. And so it's like, is the door broken? Is someone inside? Is it locked from inside, or is someone trapped in there? And she becomes obsessed with it and has to get in there, and then eventually makes a choice to like entomb herself in it, basically. So that is a real room at my parents' house in the basement, and they live like out in the country. And when we moved in when I was like 12, it was kind of a mysterious room because it is this like concrete lined room without any windows that has a door, and the door is like a exterior door. It's like a metal, serious door, like that you would have like to get into a building. And I don't remember if it locks from inside or outside, which is an important detail, but yeah, we were like, what is this for? I guess it's a tornado shelter, right? I guess, I don't know. So the mystery of that room, I think, was what inspired that. And yeah, just like feeling, I don't know, I still feel it a bit when I go home. Just like the eeriness of like the open country and like the empty space and the quiet, and knowing that there's a basement under me, and like who knows what's going on down there. So I'm always afraid of the basement. And it's also the place that you have to go for shelter because there's tornadoes and that kind of thing. So mostly just tornadoes. Yeah.
How do you get a sense of when it's appropriate to end your short story? So some of your stories, like The Boneyard, wrap up very neatly or seem very appropriate before the narrator even dies. But others end more ambiguously. And so I was wondering, like, how do you have a sense of like, oh, this is the right time to end this story, or this, I should stop writing now.
Yeah, how to know where to end a story. I mean, I think that's a tough one, and I think it depends on the story, and sometimes I don't get it right the first time. Like with the story Out There, the original version of it, well, I guess the ending was just slightly different. Like, so at the end of Out There, the story, it's like the narrator sees a table of like blots, these like really handsome men, and she like moves toward them. It's like she's disappointed with dating a man, and so she's decided like she's ready to embrace like dating an AI or whatever. And so she goes toward them, and in the original version she like went away from them. Like it was just like she kept walking out of the park. And I workshopped that actually, and because I was in the Stegner workshop at the time, and someone was just like, what if she goes toward them instead, or like that doesn't seem quite right. And I think and that was like such a good instinct. Like it feels like sometimes there is just a really small gesture like that completely changes the entire inflection of the story and everything that came before. And so sometimes it's just like a matter of trial and error to find that what the right ending is. And sometimes I'll also try to like write past what I think the ending is, or like cut off the last page and just like see, because yeah, sometimes I've written too much and sometimes not enough. So yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah, thank you all again so much for coming tonight. And please buy the other readers' books. I know there's copies for sale of Tomas, Ma, and Claire's books as well. So definitely check those out.
Kate, thank you. Thanks for bringing us together this evening. I really appreciate it. One more hand for our readers. Kate Phillips, Thank you all for coming out here and making this like a really great way to start 2023. I'm very glad to be here with you all. Brief business. We have books available for sale at the front. You can bring them back here to have authors sign them. We also need to finish that bottle of red wine, so if you're up to the task, please do that. And we also have other books available, so make yourself at home. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.